Hello everybody, Stricken on SF4 here, and today I'm going to be telling you about my impressions from Battleborn, the beta. This game, I will say this beta has kept me entertained for quite a bit of time now. There's a lot of good things about this game. I'm going to be breaking it down into two main parts of this video. The first part you're going to be seeing now is going to be story. You can see how you select your character. This is the same in every single menu, don't worry. You're also going to see multiplayer later on. If you want to skip to multiplayer, see how that plays out, you can see it at 9:46. So I'm going to be talking about this game, what I like about it, what I dislike about it, and what I think could be improved. So without further ado, let's jump in. So to start off with, Battleborn is awesome. I don't know how else to describe it. This game doesn't really require much of a specific player or audience, I feel, because there's just so many different characters to play from and so many different choices and a lot of different play styles. As you'll see here, I'm playing as Thorn, which I can only describe as a crowd control sniper character. And that sounds really weird, but that's how it really is. That's kind of what this game is, if I were to describe it, if anything, is weird, kooky, but awesome altogether. So I'm going to continue talking about the story. The story is very funny, very cliche, but it was definitely intended. The game knows what it's doing, it knows what it's trying to appeal to. They're really trying to appeal to teens with this game, make little funny references here and there. So a lot of, and to keep the teen rating, they add the censor, which only adds to comedic effect. But altogether, I do feel that the campaign, while not very story-driven, and not having a very, diverse story, it's very cliche, it is still very fun because you get to play, there's many different characters, and they each have little interactable things that they do. Like, you won't hear it, but at a certain part, believe it or not, in this mission, a character asks something, and depending on who your character is, they'll say have a different response, and some of them are quite funny, and some of them are quite stupid. But again, that's just how it is. The level up system in this game is very similar to MOBA games, where your character will have a level in-game, a level out-of-game, and a character level. If you've ever played Smite or League of Legends, this should feel very familiar. You'll level up in-game, however, these levels will not transfer over once you leave. What this basically means is, as you see here, my character just leveled up to level 2 not too long ago. This also carries over to multiplayer, which we'll talk about a bit later. This level will not carry over to my next mission. I will start off at level 1 again, which does allow for some diversity in between skills, because you only get to pick your skills once, which I guess is the balance of it. So there's that. And you can go to max level of 10 currently in the beta. Don't know if it's going to increase. I would hope it doesn't get increased. I don't really see a need to increase it. However, 10 is the max level as of now, and when you leave the game, you will gain a certain amount of experience for your actual player level, which is your commander, which is basically all you as yourself as the player, and then each hero individually has their own level, which allows them to unlock cool little unique features, different colors, skins, different taunts which they can use. As you saw my character use at the very beginning, she used a taunt, and also all sorts of little aesthetic items, along with a couple mutations, which I'll talk about briefly. Basically, I don't think I have a mutation on this character just yet as of this video, but a mutation so as you saw, the level up are a certain strand of DNA, and you select the strand of DNA. Basically, the mutation just states that your strand of DNA was mutated, kind of like how they can be in real life, and that you have a different ability. An example is on Miko. I have one that increases the healing just by 13, which is actually quite a bit, may I add, which drastically changes Miko's healing when she uses her healing beam on her allies. Miko's a healer, by the way, Mushroom, very weird looking, but nonetheless still very fun character to play as. As for campaign game balance, I feel the game is balanced by being very, very difficult. Like, if you do not know how to play this first time, you might get your ass handed to you. I'm not going to lie. One of my friends actually just doesn't want to play the game because he got his ass handed to him because he picked a random character. You have to research the character you want to play. You cannot just pick a random character, jump into it, and expect to do extremely well. You have to really know your character, which I feel like they should add a tutorial of some sort for the character classes. That would be very nice. Maybe for multiplayer, that I'll get to that a bit later. But I definitely want one to just introduce you to the game. Because right now, it's more along the lines of you get in and then you start pressing buttons, which I'm completely fine with, but I feel that a lot of players aren't fine with. As for campaign characters, all multiplayer and campaign characters are the exact same. All of the heroes, I guess you could call them, they are all very different from each other. I'm going to jump ahead a bit here to the end of the mission because the missions last quite a bit of time. The actual characters are unique in their own way, which I'll talk a lot more later in the multiplayer section, but they are all unique, they are all very fun. As you see here, I'm playing as this character, but in a little bit else, when I go to the multiplayer section, I'm playing as a completely different character, completely different setup, and you'll see how they can diverse from each other. Even though they may fall under the category of like S-Sniper, they can be completely different. Now that we've reviewed the characters, I'm going to talk a bit about the actual mission lengths and times in this game. Mission length is commonly very long to very short, depending on how skilled you are. Missions, on average, I would say, you can complete them in about 15-20 minutes at most, or at minimum, if you're very, very fast and good. And if you're very bad doing the mission the first time, it might take you a bit longer. There's only 2 missions in the beta, and they're both very easy missions, not very challenging, not very difficult. But you can still get a general idea of the missions, and the what their length will be and how their challenge will go on in the real game if this beta does transfer over. As you can see here, the missions are very, very diverse in just the way that they're played. There's a lot of differentiation between different missions, which I find nice, because the first mission you play is just a simple, like, trying to introduce you to the game, no tutorial, which I really kind of would like them to add in just for new players, so a lot of people could be attracted to this game. And then, also, not only the missions are very different. Like, as this one I was escorting, and now I'm doing a boss fight. Most bosses are also very different in how they behave. The first boss you'll ever fight is very, very simple, right up till his ending move, which I'm not going to spoil for you, but it screwed me over the first time I did it. I was really confused as to what's going on. Whereas this boss has a certain code to it, very similar to bosses in like Destiny or other games, or games where there's strategy. There's a certain strategy to do damage to some bosses in this game. And then sometimes you'll run into the occasional mini-boss that you can just deal damage to. But there are strategies involved, and each boss is unique in their own way. Some being a lot more annoying than others, and some just being really easy to fight, and just like a free source of XP and loot. But hey, that really comes down to what you think. Now that we reviewed practically everything about the missions, I'm going to quickly review, do I think the amount of missions they have is good. Depending on how fun the missions are and how longer they get, or how much shorter they get, I really can't tell from the beta because there's only 2 missions, but these 2 missions I could play over and over and over again, grinding a little bit, because they're so fun. If they keep this fun factor and this differentiation, I really feel that the campaign could be very well. Now that we've gone over just about everything I can talk about in the campaign, I'm going to quickly give you my opinion on the campaign of Battleborn. I really do enjoy this campaign. This is probably one of the better stories that I've played. Not so much the story itself, but just the gameplay of it. The gameplay of this is awesome. It feels a lot like I'm playing a game, like I'm playing Smite, if Smite had a story, except I'm not playing Smite, I'm playing a first-person game, or like I'm playing League, but at the same time, it's not as a first-person shooter, which is completely in my realm. I love first-person shooting games of any kind, COD, Titanfall, really any first-person shooter I try to get my hands on, because I find that I excel at them, or I try to excel at them, not bragging or anything. However, I do quite enjoy the gameplay. I do like the skills and how there's a strategy to the skills in the campaign, and how you really have to think about what you're doing in the campaign. You can't just be an idiot the whole time, because if you do, you're going to get your ass handed to you, as I do right about here. So you can clearly see, while people may make it look easy, it's very easy to fuck up in this campaign, because the game itself is, well, it might not seem like it can be quite challenging at times. Now that we've reviewed just about everything I can talk about in the story, and you've been able to hear me ramble about it, which kind of wasn't the best, we're going to talk a bit about the multiplayer, and this is where I have a lot more to shine, because I've played a lot more multiplayer than I have single player. I've played, actually, if I would say, I'd probably play about equal amount, but I've played more multiplayer just because that's what me and my friends like to play, and that's where this game really starts to look a lot like League, and it's a lot like other games, but I'll talk about more about that right as we jump into that section. Now. So as you can see here, I'm playing as a completely different character. Previously, I was playing as Thorn. Now I'm playing as Whiskey Foxtrot, and he's a very different character as you have saw before. So before we do anything, let's talk a bit about the characters in this. The character differentiation in this game is flawless. Every single character brings something unique and different to the table. They may seem similar, but they are so different when you play as them. They have a completely different feel. A lot of people like comparing this character to Oscar Mike, and I can see why. They're both soldiers. They both look very similar, and one of them is actually a clone of the other. One of them's a previous version of the other. But they're very, very different because one of them's a bit more. They both have things that suit very specific playstyles. And what I like about this game is they pulled off the idea of simplistic classes with differentiation among those classes. And it works very well with giving each character a very specific playstyle for a person to follow. And it boggles my mind to think they could have done something as amazing as that in a first-person shooter game and made a first-person shooter game like this, because it's great. Every character brings something different to the table, and if you want to learn all of them, you might have a hard time, because some of them, cough, cough, melee characters are a bit difficult to learn, but are fun nonetheless, because at the end of the day, this is a fun game. Now let's talk a bit about the character balancing. I want to start off right with this. Character balancing, for the most part, is good. You don't die exceptionally fast or exceptionally quick unless you're a melee character. In that case, you have to get up close, so you might die a bit fast because a lot of people are using guns. However, you do not die really fast. If it's a melee character, you can only get out of their range. If you're shooting, if it's a shooting character, you gotta get close with the melee. It's very, very simple in that regard. There is one character though that stands above me to all the rest, and I hope Gearbox sees this or someone sees this, because this is just pisses me off, and that's Wrath. Alright, I don't know if it's just people that play as him, or maybe he's just really easy to play as, but he is exceptionally powerful compared to the other assassins, and compared to other melee characters, and he is like the go-to melee character in case if you ever want to deal damage, which I do not feel should be the thing as a character you get at the beginning of the game. So I really feel his damage should be nerfed. I'm not talking about his ult, I'm talking about his stuns, because his stuns are ridiculous. Like, you think some of the characters that people would play as have ridiculous stuns or ridiculous poison effects. He has ridiculous stuns. He will stun you, silence you, and then ult you, which can be extremely painful. Now, if you heard me earlier, I said ult. And if you love players that play Dota, Smite, League, you instantly recognize this word, because the gameplay mechanics of this game are very similar to that of those types of games where you have 2 or 3 or 4 abilities, and each ability does something very specific or very different, and you can morph them together to make sick combos and completely decimate your enemies. Now, there are a couple more things I want to talk about. The multiplayer map design is very similar to what you would see in MOBA games, where there's lanes and you have to defend your lanes or push your lane. But considering it's a first-person shooter and not third-person or bird's-eye view like Dota or some game like that, the MOBA is taken a bit differently and is seen a bit differently. I can even agree to this, in the regard that you mostly push one lane, even if you're on one team, because a lot of people are going to be pushing that way. I don't know why it is in this game. Maybe it's just because it's beta, but a lot of people push one lane over the 2 lanes, which still doesn't make sense to me, but hey, who am I to judge? Now let's talk a bit about the leveling system in multiplayer and the normal story mode. I should have talked about this earlier, but I said I was going to talk about it now, so why as well. The level system in this game is very simplistic, as stated before. As you may, or if you did not see the first part, basically what it is that whenever you level up in the game, and then that will reset every time you play, similar to League and Dota and all that, blah 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 blah. And that's basically the level system is you will reset every time you join a game, which is kind of keep it balanced so you don't have all your perks and stuff. And so the perks are very drastic, I feel. They can do some pretty drastic things to characters, make them extremely powerful or extremely reliable. They can do some crazy things to characters, which is understandable because it takes a long time to level up in multiplayer. In campaign, it's a lot easier because all enemies drop XP, and they drop a good amount of XP. It's not like a small amount. So a lot of people, including me, find that we level up fast in the campaign, so you get to your ending items faster. Whereas in multiplayer, if you're not kill whoring, or if you're not constantly killing minions, it's going to take you a while to level up. And some characters level up faster than other characters. Some characters have little things about them that make them different from other characters. Again, this is where the character diversity comes in. So that could definitely change how you play the game, or definitely change how you level up when you're playing. Level ups do come though, and they do bring great changes to your character, and you want to learn your levels. You really want to learn what you're going to do with your character, or learn your character, as stated before you play them. Otherwise, you're going to have a hard time, because these characters are so different from each other, and they require such a certain playstyle. If you don't match that playstyle, you might have a hard time in multiplayer. A lot of people like to argue that this game can get very repetitive and boring. And while I do agree that it can get repetitive, and I have seen that among my friends, I personally do not find it very repetitive due to the fact that there are just so many characters to play from and so many different playstyles that you have almost an infinite amount of playtime on your hands if you're willing to give this game a try. Now that we've gone over basically the game itself and what I like about it, let's talk a bit about the bad things about this game. There are a bit of character balancings that are needed in the game. Wrath. That really just need to be addressed or looked at, because some of them are a bit ridiculous. Some characters I feel are slightly underpowered, but for the most part, character balancing, like I said before, is good. However, it still should be looked into, and they actually are doing it in the beta, which I like, so thank you, Gearbox, for that. Next is certain classes I feel like really shouldn't be outclassed at certain ranges. This is just a personal thing. But I really don't like how, if I'm a sniper, like, I get outclassed by someone like Montana who has a big old minigun, like, across the map, which just blows my mind how they did it. But they do it anyway, and I die, which really aggravates me, but hey, what you gonna do? You can't win it all. Also, I really want the ability to add more game modes. First and foremost, let's talk about that. From what I've seen in the beta, there's only 2 game modes, and they only plan on adding 1 more. And I feel that that's not enough multiplayer versus multiplayer game modes to keep the game going. And you could say, well, we can add more in updates. Please add more at launch. I really feel that these 3 game modes will not be enough to sustain a long-lasting online community that plays versus mode. You're going to have to add a bit more. At least add a strictly PvP mode, like Team Deathmatch and COD, that people can play and enjoy, because that would definitely help. That would definitely help noobs, or newer players, and it would definitely benefit people overall. And like me, who wants to just warm up. Now that we went over that, I want to talk a bit about maps. I hope that there are more maps or more map variations per game mode, kind of similar to Call of Duty or something like that, because I do not like playing on the same map over and over and over again. While it's nice to learn one map over and over again, I really hope that you can change the maps a bit towards the end. Other than that, I really can't say anything about this game. That was really it. Altogether, this game is phenomenal. It's definitely a game I'm going to be picking up at launch May 3rd. Definitely worth the time to check out if you like first-person shooters and you want to try something new and fun. And overall, it's a very enjoyable experience. I've had a lot of fun playing the beta so far, and I'll have fun right up till the 18th. So it's very, very good. You can watch the last bit of gameplay here. I hope you enjoyed this video, and without further ado, Striker, out.
Our foes have moved on a small mercenary camp.
Still alive? Good, because I'm still mad! Target down!
Our enemies are attacking a mercenary camp. Hostile Thrall mercenaries inbound. Enemy sentry eliminated.
Ready now, fellow.